Yeah.
I got 5 p.m.
Nobody's there. Nobody's there. It's a national park.
Good evening, everyone. I have 5 p.m. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. This time, I'll ask Pastor Nick Chisler, if you would, sir, please lead us in the invocation, if you don't mind.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for bringing us together today. God, we pray that your will, your mission is accomplished, that you give us all humility, a servant's heart, God. Let our attitudes reflect your goodness, your faithfulness, God. I pray your blessings over this county, over the leadership, Father, that you give them wisdom, clarity of thought and mind, Father, and let, above all else, God, let us work together to do what's best, Lord, for this community. And we pray this together in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Please join us for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all for coming out tonight. You have several opportunities to participate. We have 2 citizens to be heard opportunities, one at the beginning, one at the end. You can do either or. You can also speak on each individual agenda item. If you'd like to speak, please fill out a speaker card with Miss Patty. And when you come up, if you'll give us your name and address so the folks at home can hear you as well. Welcome. Any changes to the agenda?
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0. All right. We have one person for citizens to be heard, Mr. Chris Russell.
Good evening, Commissioners.
Evening.
Happy New Year. I don't
Welcome
think I've
back.
seen you all year. Thank you. To mow or not to mow? That is the question. That was humor, by the way. Or light thereof. So, I'm going to ask you for something that may seem a little out of ordinary for myself. I'd like to see us have a workshop on the potential banning of plastic bags in Wakulla County, plastic bags by commercial entities. And I'm going to tell you why I'm up here saying that. Some of you know I spent just about a month in Puerto Rico, just got back, and they don't have plastic bags down there in commercial entities anymore. They did away with it about a year ago. And the first night I got there, I was planning for a month, so I was getting my stuff, and I went to Walmart and I had everything in there, and I went to check out. Long story short, they didn't have bags. So your options were you could buy a recyclable bag or pay 10 cents for a really good plastic bag. The more I was there and the more I did, the more I got attuned to the fact that when I went to the grocery store or Walmart or whatnot, I didn't have a bag option, right? So here, when I go to Walmart, I saw Summer. I told her Saturday that this may be out of ordinary, but when we were at Walmart Saturday, we had bag options, right? And we had a bunch of them. But you can't put your bleach with your apples, right? They're going to be in 2 different bags. Now, mind you, they've been in that grocery cart an hour, because when you go into Walmart, you're going to run into a friend and you're going to talk to them for an hour. But the way we are in a litigious society, we don't put them together. Anyway, I like to look at us having a workshop on that potential there. Now, I'm not, as you know, a big government, big regulation individual, but right is right. Yesterday after church, my wife and I we had to run some errands, and from going from MLK down to Cager Posey up the East Ave and coming down 319 going to Hammer Knockers, we counted over 100 bags. I had her taking pictures, and finally I said, just stop. They're everywhere. They're in the trees on the side of the road. Now, we're worried about mowing and not mowing, and I get that. That's a dang sure issue we need to look at, but we need to look at this trash that's out there. We are in the marine environment. Good causes there. Now, I wouldn't say let's go ahead and do this in a time up, Mike. I wouldn't say let's go ahead and do this right now, like in a month. But let's look at the workshop, and if we enact it like 6 months. You go to Walmart, you go to the grocery store a couple times a week. You get 5 to 10 bags. In 6 months, you get about 250 bags. You've got enough for the next 5 years. Think about election season's coming up. Randy Barrett, he's buying recyclable bags. He's putting his name on it. It's out there everywhere. It's something we can look at. Look here. I think it's a discussion we should have. I think if you'll ride down the streets of Wakulla County and look on the side of the road, you will see that we have a plastic bag problem, and we need to be looking at that. And I have nothing against the commercial entities out there using them, except for I think it's time that we look at another opportunity. So I'd welcome if you would think about at least having a workshop to have this dialogue going to see if we can do it.
And styrofoam cups, those are bad too.
I did. They had those in Puerto Rico, I guess. I don't know. So anyway, on that as well, hadn't seen y'all all year. I'd like to thank y'all for your service. It's tough being up there. So thank y'all.
you, sir.
Hey, Chris, I've been wanting to do that, but the lawyer tells me that we can't do it until the lawsuit is settled between the community that's done it and
Coral Gables. Is it Coral Gables or Coral Springs?
Coral Gables.
Coral Gables.
Yeah.
Or we
And
can all
so-
move to Puerto Rico.
If they win their lawsuit, I'll be bringing that forward.
Well, Heather, I guess we're having open mic night now. So that's a lawsuit that's in there because the legislature has prohibited us from doing that. However, this is Wakulla County. We will push back against big government. We like a good fight. Ralph Thomas, you'll get up there and fight with them all day long. I mean, why not join them and look at it, or at least have the discussion? You know what? It may be that the citizens don't want this, but at least have a workshop to discuss it. Doesn't mean we have to add the ordinance. We could see which way we're going on it. So thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
There's some similar pushback with gun regulations right now. And maybe Coral Gables doing that as well. I don't know.
Yeah.
And so
I think there's a bunch of cities participating in that.
we'll see how that all sorts out. That ends our citizens to be heard. We'll go into awards and presentation. We'll hear a presentation regarding local efforts of the Tobacco Prevention Program, Students Working Against Tobacco, the SWAT program. Welcome.
Hello, Commissioners, and thank you for giving us the chance to address you tonight. My name is Jonathan Reeves,
And I'm Dakota Chadwick.
and we are 8th grade members of SWAT at Coast Charter School. If you don't know what SWAT is against, we are against tobacco. We're not only against smoking, but we're against e-cigarettes, chew tobacco. Our goal is to make as many people as possible aware of the dangers of smoking and the deceitful tactics the large tobacco companies use. Tobacco isn't just bad for the people who use it, but it's bad for the people around them. SWAT is unrelenting against tobacco companies and their marketing schemes because they try to trick people into buying tobacco by using techniques and ideas targeting to specific groups of people. Most tobacco companies make their packaging with bright colors and flavor their products. This tactic is aimed at the younger buyer in hopes of getting them to start smoking at a younger age. They use product placement in movies and commercials to make smoking or chewing tobacco seem cool, which once again targets the younger buyer. If they get them addicted early, they will have their business for many years to come. The targeting of the younger population is bad because once you get addicted, they will now have your even more business as you get older. With that being said, everyone in SWAT would like to extend a thank you to Commissioner Hess for moving to approve, as well as the entire Board of County Commissioners for the unanimous adoption of tobacco and electronic cigarette-free environment in all Wakulla County parks and playgrounds to ensure a safe, smoke, and chemical-free environment for our citizens. We're happy to have tobacco-free parks because now kids can play and adults can exercise without having to worry about tobacco or secondhand smoke. It really makes a difference here in St. Mark's because the park we use for school walking field trips is also now smoke-free. The city of St. Mark's created a smoke-free park largely due to the overwhelming support and pressure from the rest of the county. The influence from your decision here has made a positive effect over many areas. When students walk to the park for lunch, we don't have to worry about cigarette butts being on the table where we eat or in the playground for pre-K and kindergarten students to pick up.
We recently had our leadership training on February 3rd, and 29 SWAT members were there.
If you will, young man, speak in the speaker.
Yeah, you move that over.
We recently had our leadership training on February 3rd, and 29 SWAT members were there. Everyone showed their dedication to SWAT and worked hard on identifying what more we could do to make our community better. Everyone put forth extensive effort by coming up with ideas such as material for upcoming events and presentations for younger kids to show them the negative effects of tobacco, such as cancer, poor lung quality, early aging, and gum disease. We have several upcoming events that we would like to make you aware of. Coming up on March 17th is the St. Patrick's Day Parade, and SWAT will be in it. Several days after that is Kick Butts Day, which is a national day of activism that empowers young to stand out, speak up, and seize control in the fight against tobacco. Each year, over 1,000 events take place across the United States and on military bases around the world. Our next tobacco partnership meeting is April 10th, and we would like to invite you all to join us at the Wakulla County Health Department from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. to participate in or just observe the discussion. We hope to see you at one of our upcoming events and look forward to any new county policies to help make Wakulla as tobacco-free as possible. Thank you again for giving us a chance to speak to you.
Thank
Good
you.
job.
Thank you.
Yeah, good job.
Good job, Gordon.
In a couple days, this video will be on YouTube on the clerk's office, so grab that and share that with your friends. Get the message.
If anybody here was in college in the late 50s, early 60s, the cigarette companies would be in the chow line passing out little 6-packs of cigarettes. Everybody who went through that chow line got a 6-pack of, well, just 1 pack of 6 cigarettes. And they were in front of all the chow lines. So we've come a long way since then, though.
Is that back in '09?
Now, what's that?
In '09, 1909? Jerry was in high school.
All right, good job. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Motion second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. We'll go into general business, item number 10.
Yes, Commissioners, this is agenda item number 10, request board approval of the collective bargaining agreement between Wakulla County Board of County Commissioners and the Tallahassee Professional Firefighters Local 2339 of the International Association of Firefighters.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion second, one citizen, Mr. Mike Bellamy.
Don't talk us out of it. We normally like to speak after we voted. Mr. Chairman, thank you. Mike Bellamy. I'm a firefighter in Tallahassee and a representative from the IFF. I just wanted to say thank you for the mutual gain and the work, the professionalism here as we worked with staff. You have wonderful staff here. It took us some time, obviously, to get through a contract. That happens in all the 420 cities and the various counties where we sit down to work through these contracts. But I want to say thank you. We appreciate the professionalism. We look forward to continuing to work with you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0. Congratulations. Good job. And if I may, I had an item I was going to read at discussion, but I think it'd be more appropriate to do it right now. I've got an email that's applicable to what you guys do each and every day, and so it's good when people respond and let us know what a good job you're doing. Commissioner Thomas, good morning. I just wanted to let you know how grateful I am to how grateful I am to the first responders of Wakulla County. My 13-year-old son was a passenger in a vehicle that was involved in a bad accident just outside of Wakulla Springs on Saturday. He and other passengers had to be extracted from their van, and according to the driver, Wakulla first responders were there in minutes and could not have been more professional. 4 ambulances took everyone to TMH, and the EMT who helped my son could not have been more professional and reassuring to this worried father. There were so many involved, we do not know how to thank them. When you have time, please let us know who the chief is, and I have forwarded his information, so we can thank them personally. I also believe a number of Wakulla County deputies were there to help. I know you are proud of Wakulla County, and this should be yet another reason to be proud. Again, thank you for the first responders of Wakulla County. Regards, Eric Poole, Executive Director of the Florida Association of Counties. So thank you. Thank you for the good job. Next, we'll go to general business item number 11.
Miss Melissa is going to, she's going to, this agenda item is a presentation on the potential Florida Department of Environmental Protection rule regarding wastewater treatment in the upper Wakulla River and Wakulla Springs Basin Management Area.
But we will not be voting on anything tonight, correct?
That is our recommendation, that this just be an update. That's right. At this point in time, because it's a fluid situation, so.
That's correct.
You need to know where everything stands as of right now.
Yes, staff has been participating in the Upper Wakulla River and Wakulla Springs B maps on-site sewage treatment and disposal system advisory committee. Sorry, I had to look at that. That was a mouthful. But as part of this participation, it gives the county staff a way to provide feedback on projects that are going into the BMAP, and all of these projects are going to try to work to help the river and the springs reach the TMDL that the state has set for it. Through the participation in this committee, staff actually learned at the last advisory committee meeting that DEP is beginning to feel that all of the projects that the different governmental entities have committed to may not be enough to help us reach the TMDL that's been set for the upper Wakulla River and the springs. In result of that, DEP staff has been considering one of 4 options, at least this is what was expressed to us at the last meeting, but looking at one of 4 options and setting a rule for how development can proceed. The first option would be that all new developments on lots less than 1 acre in size within the priority focus areas, so these are the areas closest to the springs, that they would be required to connect to central sewer or to put in an advanced on-site sewage treatment.
That's basically there's these priority areas. The southern one is Wakulla Gardens area all the way really down to Spring Creek, right, Melissa?
That's correct.
The other one kind of mirrors our existing basin.
Yes, the priority focus areas, it goes down into Medard. It doesn't go all the way down into Spring Creek, but it gets very close. The northern portion goes all the way to the county line, and it actually extends east of Woodville Highway. So we're talking about the priority focus areas encompassing a large part, of developable land. And so that's one option that they're looking at. The second option would be that all lots that have new development in those priority focused areas would have to connect to sewer or have a performance-based septic tank or other advanced septic tank. The third option is that all lots less than 1 acre in size in the entire BMAP area would have those septic tank or sewer requirements. And that BMAP area does go all the way down to Spring Creek, and it does pretty much encompass almost all of the developable area.
Smith Creek.
That's the one that goes all the way to the Georgia line, correct?
That is correct.
Includes Gadsden County and Jefferson County, portions of it.
That is correct.
There it is.
The larger area you see there in the dark purple, that was the BMAP area. Then it's kind of hard to see on there, but on the southeastern portion.
X out your menu too. There you go.
Close your bookmarks. There you go.
There you go. Close your bookmarks. There we go.
Zoom out something.
Out.
There you go.
Perfect.
Yeah, the
I believe
darker.
it did get Smith Creek, Randy.
Yeah. Well, no. Smith
No.
Creek's out of it.
Didn't get Smith Creek.
Yeah, so that darker purple line is going to be your entire BMAP area that you mentioned goes all the way to the Georgia line. In the southeastern portion of that BMAP area are those 2 priority focus areas. And those essentially, like we've mentioned, are going to have the potential to affect a lot of residential and commercial development within our community. The last option that DEP had mentioned was that all lots, regardless of size, in the entire BMAP area may be required to connect to central sewer or have an advanced on-site septic tank when new development occurs there. So there are definite negative and positive implications that could come along with a rule of that nature. The next advisory committee meeting is actually going to be held tomorrow afternoon at 2 p.m. at the Woodville Library. For anyone who is interested to attend, it is open to the public. And on the agenda for tomorrow's meeting, they do note a discussion on potential rules, but they don't spell out these 4 or any others at this point. So it's, like we mentioned, it's very fluid. These 4 options are what was mentioned at the last meeting, but they could be subject to change.
Do we have an option to vote on these 4? What do we do on these 4? We can't choose all 4 of them. So what do we do?
Well, and the main goal, as was mentioned, was to provide you an update, let you know these discussions are going on, and also staff will be at the DEP meeting tomorrow afternoon. If the board has any comments that you would like for us to pass on, we're certainly happy to do that as we represent you at that meeting.
But it'll be coming back to you guys once everything settles out and there's something for you guys.
Well, if it settles out, it's too late for us to...
No, this is
Okay.
it's a process.
We don't have a choice. I mean, they're going to do the rule. We can say...
Yeah, but we can still chime in, but it's a process.
Melissa, how will this impact those of us that are currently on existing septic systems and we have to renew that? If it goes out and we have to change it, will that apply to those that have to go upgrade to a new system, a new advanced?
Based on the conversations held at the last meeting, I do not believe that it would be required for those advanced treatment standards to be met. The discussion was for new development. However, that still remains uncertain at this point in time. That may be something that they specify further in the rule as it gets developed.
With all due respect, it seems like that Wakulla doesn't have we have an advisory position.
That's correct.
But in making the rules, we have no position. Isn't that's somewhere close to awful. It's taken away the rights of the representatives of the people and the people to make a decision that affects them. And one other thing for the people is that probably 90% on the advanced wastewater treatment system, as soon as they're made to put it in and the inspector leaves the house, they unplug it. So it's a total waste of money, but here again, we have no ability to determine that. But all the people I know that have an advanced system have it unplugged.
And unfortunately, we have heard cases like that where those type of septic tanks are being utilized in that manner. And so there's a lot of moving parts with this. So we wanted to make sure you're aware and pass on any comments that you might have.
Very good. Further questions, discussion? Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. So we're not voting on anything, but I do have one citizen, Mr. Robert Dial. Well, good evening. I'm Robert Dial, 2409 Oakdale Street, Tallahassee, and I'm here on a follow-up of an email exchange I had with County Administrator Edwards on Friday, on which all of you were copied about this agenda item. And as I noted at that time, I'm a member of the Wakulla Springs Alliance, which is a group that works to protect and restore Wakulla Springs. I'm also a member of this OSTDS advisory committee that Melissa was just talking about. And on Thursdays, I drive riverboats to Wakulla Springs as a volunteer riverboat tour guide. I wanted to just start out by reminding you of all the good stuff you guys have already done for Wakulla Springs. Back in 2006, you were a party to a petition that eventually led to the city of Tallahassee spending $225 million to reduce the nitrogen load from its spray field by 75%. And as you probably know, you've also got projects underway at Magnolia Gardens and Wakulla Gardens that are going to connect existing systems to sewer. And you may or may not know that there's a project in the works to test what are now called passive nitrogen reduction septic systems in a subdivision somewhere in Wakulla County. I'm not sure if that location's been identified yet, but that's a promising new approach that doesn't have anything to plug in, and therefore there's nothing to unplug. I would like to just point out that there's reason to be optimistic here that we can make some progress with Wakulla Springs. The City of Tallahassee sewage treatment plant upgrade went online fully in November 2012. That following spring, the hydrilla that has infested the spring since the late 1990s did not grow back after the winter grazing by the manatee, and the most plausible explanation is that's because the nitrogen level went down substantially as a result of the improvements at the Tallahassee treatment plant. But as you probably know from going down to the spring and visiting the river, we still got work to do there. We still have a lot of algae in the system that shouldn't be there. You notice that if you go into the swimming area. The eelgrass that should be bright green is dark brown. That's because it's covered with algae, and that all of that excessive algae is there because there's still too much nitrogen in the system. Our volunteer-based wildlife survey work that goes back to the late 90s has shown a 50% decline in alligator populations in the tour route in the last 20 years, and a decline in 11 different other species, mostly birds. So we know the ecosystem still needs some work. But I'm optimistic that further improvements can be achieved. Septic tanks are the most tractable remaining source to go after because we know what to do. There's no question about the engineering or the science behind it. And there is money available from the outstanding Florida Springs Protection Act to help cover both local government costs and private costs as well. So there is room to work there. Leon County just initiated a comprehensive engineering wastewater facilities plan. That's my time up.
Just bring it in. Yes, sir.
Yeah. To identify the most cost-effective ways to go about remediating nitrogen discharges from existing septic systems in the entire county. And I did want to encourage you to consider doing something similar here so you'd know where the most cost-effective place would be to put some effort. Finally, I'd just like to end by inviting you down to the river. I am a volunteer riverboat tour guide. I talked to our park manager, Amy Conyers, and she'd be happy to work with me and you guys to set up a special tour to kind of give you a hands-on look at what the state of the system is right now. We can talk a little bit more about what's in the offing here in terms of possibilities. Thank you.
Hey, I do have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
I remember several years ago, before Leon County switched over, there was a study that showed the sources of nitrogen.
Yeah.
Has that been updated since they've made their changes?
Yeah, you're talking about the pie chart probably.
Right.
Yeah, the pie chart gets updated about every 6 weeks. We're going to be seeing the latest version of the pie chart tomorrow. The last draft I've seen shows that something like 34% of the remaining nitrogen sources are septic tanks. A lot of it is now attributed to atmospheric deposition, which we can't do anything about.
That was my next question, because I remember that the majority of it was from Leon County, and then obviously a portion of it is from us, but if I remember correctly, the atmospherics were actually higher than what Wakulla County was adding to the total.
Could be. It's not divided by jurisdiction. But the old pie chart showed that the wastewater treatment was like 50%, and that was mostly the city of Tallahassee's effluent. That's because of that reduction. Wastewater treatment's now 3%, and so septic tanks are now a bigger piece because the whole pie's smaller to start with.
Just out of curiosity, city of Tallahassee used to land apply fertilizer at the spray field out there.
Right.
What portion was the nitrogen contribution from the fertilizer greater than the effluent itself?
I don't know the answer to that question. I don't think so, but they're not doing that anymore.
That was a big adder.
Yeah, it didn't make a whole lot of sense, but there wasn't enough nitrogen in the wastewater to grow the crops that the farmer who was leasing the land wanted to grow, and it did seem a little kind of inside out.
It
to
was
be
a world renowned, but very used several times. I remember when I was in engineering school, they'd take us out there, and this was such a great agricultural plan, and everybody was marveling at it, but they didn't realize it was killing Wakulla Springs.
Yeah. Dye studies are wonderful things.
Yeah.
Thanks, gentlemen. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
All righty. Public hearing, item number 9.
Yes, this is a request for the board's approval to conduct a public hearing and approve the designation of the old Wakulla County Jail as a historic building on the local registrar of historic places.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion second. Any citizens? Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0.
The
Item number
next
12.
item is a request for the board's approval to conduct the final public hearing and adopt an ordinance creating residential zoning districts for the Crawfordville Town Plan area. We had the first reading of this ordinance at your last board meeting, and since then, staff has made some adjustments to the recreation requirements for multifamily developments as well as residential subdivisions that exceed 60 dwelling units at build-out. That has been included in this proposed ordinance, and the advertisement appeared in the Wakulla News on February 1st. Staff is recommending approval.
Motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any citizens? Discussion from the board? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0. Item number 13.
This is a request for the board's approval to conduct the final public hearing and adopt an ordinance amending and updating existing residential zoning districts. As in the previous zoning item, staff has made some changes to the ordinance related to multifamily site plans and residential developments and the requirement for recreational facilities to be included as part of those plans. The advertisement for this public hearing appeared in the Wakulla News February 1st of this year, and staff is recommending approval.
Do we have a motion?
Chairman, I'm going to recuse myself from this vote just out of abundance of caution. Heather said it was probably fine, but I own some property that's zoned C3, so even though there's a bunch of other properties on
R3.
C3. R3, I'm sorry.
I move that we conduct the final public hearing and adopt the proposed ordinance amending and updating residential zoning districts.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Motion and a second. Any citizens? Further discussion? And you're filling out your form?
Yes, sir, I am.
Further discussion? None? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 4-0. That ends our public hearings. We'll go into planning and zoning, item number 14.
This is a request for the board's approval to adopt 3 resolutions which would close and abandon a portion of Spruce Avenue, a portion of Decatur Street, and a portion of Ida Street in the Panacea Park subdivision.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any citizens? Further discussion?
These are closing 3 unused, undeveloped roads, so it's,
That's correct.
everybody needs to aware there's really no change on the landscape.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. That ends our planning and zoning. Commissioner agenda items. Commissioner Hess, item 15.
Here, let's go.
Yeah.
This is a long slideshow, is it?
Yes. Very long slideshow.
Oh, Lord.
So, our last meeting we had, not our last meeting, but on the February 5th meeting, we talked about wildflowers and protection of wildflowers, and we came to a decision that I just couldn't live with. And this is the reason I couldn't live with it. These are the zephyr lilies or the rain lilies that are on 98. The current plan as we have it would eliminate this population. It would eliminate the rain lilies all the way down 98, going down to Perry. You know, this is one of the things that always attracted me to Wakulla County. Driving this road, seeing these lilies every spring was just one of those special features. Now, as we look around the other areas, all along the roads, 319 going to Sopchoppy over to Franklin County, there's large areas of wildflowers. These are on the right-of-way in 319, outside of the area. All these would be mowed and eliminated. So all these plants would be lost under the current plan. I'm not real happy with that. So I looked at it and I said, we want it simple. We want it easy for the DOT to do this. And when I presented them with my letter on how I wanted to revise it, their only comment was that they wanted to change it from mid-May to mid-May through June. So that was their only comment on the proposal I have before you. One of the things to remember is, if you look down on this slide, our area is one of the highest biological diversity areas in the country. This comes from a Nature Conservancy report from 2002. And I can tell you that this diversity is all because of our botanical resources. And when this study came out, we went from 1 person out in the forest a week looking at plants to 20 to 30 people out in the forest looking at plants every week. So there was a real attraction for people in the country to come see the flowers of the Apalachicola. Now, and if you haven't seen some of them, they're quite spectacular. It's a real treat to see, the pitcher plant bogs and those items of the forest. However, you can't see that very well, but one of the problems we have here in Wakulla County is that historically, a 5 to 7 year burn regime was considered enough to maintain the system. And if you look, you can't see this picture. Can we turn off a light or something here?
It is off.
Well, you can see that on one side of this fire line is an area that's been well burned, and on the other side, it's basically a hardwood thicket.
That's a little too dark.
Back on, please.
And this is what happens when you don't have enough fire in the forest, and the forest has to burn at a less than 3 year rotation. And when this has happened for us, basically the species have been eliminated from the forest. And one of the great examples of this is a picture of the National Forest in 1937. And if you look at this area, all the dark areas are those woody thickets. So I can draw in what are the woody thickets. And this is 1937. I come forward to 2004, and you can't see this one as well, but I can still do the same thing. And what's happened is that a large portion of the habitat for the rare plants that we have in Wakulla County have disappeared. And the only place they have a chance to survive is where we've manipulated management with our mowers. So they're able to survive in our roadside ditches where they've been eliminated from our national forest. Now, the National Wildlife Refuge is starting to do a much better job of burning their forest, and they're starting to get less than a 3 year rotation, which is what's needed to be done to get these plants back into the forest and encourage those populations. But our National Forest Service is still burning at a 4 or 5, in some places, a 10, 15 year rotation. That means that all these plants, especially down here in Wakulla County, are going to continue to be eliminated unless we maintain them in our roadside ditches. Now you can go through the whole list of all the things that are going to be eliminated, and you've got a copy of them here in our agenda. But the point is we have this wildflower agenda, this wildflower program where the state is funding activities to encourage people to come to Wakulla County. We want to take advantage of this because this puts heads in beds, stomachs in restaurants, and wallets in stores. These are all things that would benefit Wakulla County, and we need to be focused on that and protecting these resources. Now, the interesting thing...
I'll second your motion if you'll make it.
Okay. So basically the roads that I'm talking about will connect the forest to the refuge and make, road corridors are very effective for moving butterflies around the county, and this also protects the flowers that we have in the county. And so I'm proposing that we revise our letter, send this new revised letter to the state and replace the one we have before.
I'll second, but I want to say a couple things. First, I want to acknowledge Mr. Stewart working with the wildflower expert. What was his name?
Chris Davis.
Yes.
Scott Davis.
Or Scott Davis, I'm sorry.
And I don't have a problem with this because it's really not much different than we already approved. Let me point out what the differences are. In some ways, it actually increases the mowing a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? What it does, it adds to the other, nobody had wiped out the wildflower program, okay? Your proposal mirrors almost exactly what we voted for, with the exception of it added South Chappie Highway. We talked about that. And it added Woodville Highway, which we talked about that and think we all agreed to. So basically, It's the same. It actually increases the mowing on 98 slightly because the other one only had it mowing it once a year. You've got them mowing it twice a year. One part of it from 98 Newport to east of county line, it had no full cuts whatsoever. Now it's going to have 2. So it's actually a little bit of an increase in mowing. I don't have a problem with it. Mike, I'd appreciate your input if you got any. This isn't a major change from what we already passed. Really, it's almost exactly the same. So,
Well, the big difference in going 98 south to Perry is that it says in here 20 feet, and this is just the 15-foot. Okay.
well, that says 15 to 20 feet on the one we already passed.
On the one you already passed. And that, in a lot of places.
That's a batwing mower.
Well, the 15-foot is a batwing mower. And the other issue is if you don't mow those ditches and where you can, they'll turn into shrubs and eliminate the flowers. And so you need to have that back ditch mow on occasional
Basically
basis.
exactly what Mike Stewart had brought back, with the exception of adding Choppy Road, which you can't mow more than 15 feet on that thing anyway, unless you have a army tank that can
But
drive
a lot
through
of
the swamp.
those,
So I don't have a problem. This isn't a major change.
I make a motion to approve.
Too late, Jerry. Chuck already did that.
I'll second it.
Mike, do you have any issues?
I got just one issue, and if we can, we're all in the mood to compromise, I hope. I appreciate what you've done, Chuck, and I did my best with, my level of intelligence on wildflowers, which doesn't come close to yours. I acknowledge that. But I worked close with Scott, and Scott walked up here and stood right here at the end of the meeting, which we approved that item, and said to me, this is an outstanding plan. Now, with that said, he's not here tonight. I'm not, I wished he were. I'd ask him to verify that, but I'm fine with what you got, with one exception. I'd like for you to consider putting in there to mow the front slope of 98 down to the swell, not 15 foot. Let me tell you why. 15 foot works fine all over the county. I'm fine with that, except Highway 98, because 98 is such a big shoulder. In some places 15 foot won't be enough, but if we just mow the front slope, that's all I care about. If we can just mow the front slope down to the swell, not go into the swell, but to the swell. I've already talked to Benny Jacobs, who's the contractor. He said that would be fine. We understand that. We don't want to go in. You don't want to go into the swell.
What part of 98, Mike? The whole thing?
The problem is if you go south of Newport on 98 and you go down more than 15 feet, there's only a small strip left there for these zephyr lilies.
About
2 feet. About 2 feet.
Yeah, I measured it yesterday.
Let me say this. I'd like, right now you got it mowing it full wall to wall from the high school all the way to Shell Point, Spring Creek
All the way
Highway.
to the county line.
It's the way I read that.
All the way to the Jefferson County line.
Here's what I would like to compromise with, is if you can do it from the high school, the intersection there, going towards Jefferson County, the front swell to the river, to the Wakulla River. After that, go to the 15 foot. If we can do that, I don't have a problem with this. It'll accomplish what I was trying to do for safety. I think you'll still get we'll still have our wildflowers protected. And that's a small compromise from what you've suggested.
Can we go, well, I'm thinking about, because there are still zephyr lilies on, between Woodville Highway and Newport.
I don't want to touch that.
Yeah.
On 15 foot. I'm talking about go to the Wakulla River.
Oh, just to the river?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You good with that?
I'm good with that.
I'll modify my second then.
All right.
So the only thing people can do now is talk us out of this.
Please don't. Let me say
Only
this.
thing can be done.
Let me say this. I want to thank everybody who took the time, because I know there's a lot of passion about wildflowers. I understand that. I love wildflowers too. I love flowers. Come to my house and look in my backyard. I think you'll understand that. I also am concerned about safety, and that is my first priority as a commissioner. Secondly is the wildflowers. I'm sorry if y'all don't see it that way. That's okay. We can disagree on that, but I agree. I do appreciate the passion about the wildflowers, and you wouldn't ever think that this would be such a hotly debated issue, but it is, and it's important to our county, and I want to be part of the solution, and that's why I'm willing to compromise with Chuck, and I appreciate you reaching out and doing the same, and I appreciate the time you spent doing it, and I think we finally got to where we could, I think
having talked to the state today, as late as today, they said that they are, they want to make us happy. But I want to say this. Let's try it. Let's see what it looks like, and let's still agree that in this time next year, we may want to review it again. And if we don't, if everything's okay, we leave it alone and we keep doing it. But we can't keep jerking the state around about how to mow it. Let's submit this plan. Let's let them mow it to this plan, and then let's come back and reevaluate it. And maybe we need to decrease it. Maybe we need to increase it. And let's wait and see, but let's try it and go on from there.
I'd like to point out one more time that this wasn't a major revision. All it did really was add a section of road. And it added, when we talked about, it really added to it. I thought the section in Woodville Highway was going to be in there. I talked to David
We
about
talked about that, yeah.
I thought we'd agreed to put it in there. But anyway, my point is, Mike's plan was not to destroy wildflowers. We're just tweaking it, what we already passed, by adding the road on it. And it actually increases mowing slightly in some areas.
But it
everybody
also protects
agrees.
some areas
I agree.
and creates areas that we can have
That's
problems.
fine.
And that's good. I'm glad to see that we can.
So I think it's going to be a 5-0 vote, so again.
And we have a lot of citizens, and would
Well,
certainly want you to speak, but as you see, we're probably going to vote for this thing, unanimously. And if you want to get out of here at a time when we have daylight so you can still see the wildflowers when you get home, then judge yourself.
If you are opposed to the plan, please get up and tell
Yeah, I'm going to
us
still
why.
call each name. If you'd like to speak, you're certainly welcome to. Miss Linda Fleming. Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Robert Thompson.
I decided not to speak, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Miss Dana Peck.
I decided to speak.
Never happened.
Come on down.
Good. It's been so long. 2481 Surf Road, Dana Peck. I think I have something to show you. Going on down. Yeah. Can my 3 minutes start when it pops up?
Yes, ma'am.
Good.
Well,
May not pop up. That's okay.
we
Let's
couldn't
just
get
go
my
ahead.
video to play last time.
I don't have to hold you up. That's all right. This is what I call a wildflower. That's a wildflower. People who know more than Mr. Stewart and I would call it a Godfrey's blazing star. People who even know more than that would call it a Liatris provincialis. Now here's the point about a Liatris provincialis. This is a map of North America put together by the U.S. Department of Agricultural Natural Resources Commission Conservation Services. This is North America. You see that little green spot down there? That's Florida. Florida is green because that's where this Liatris provincialis grows. Now this is another map from the USDA, NRCS, and you will see this is Florida. And on this Florida map, you will see that the only two green spots on it are Wakulla County and Franklin County. That is the only place on the entire North American continent where this Liatris provincialis grows. And it's endangered. And it's endangered because we're mowing it down and we're digging up the ground. So I'm thinking, why not market it? Here we are, Wakulla County. Welcome to the county, home of the Liatris provincialis. 4,000 people come here to see the monarch butterflies. Why wouldn't they come to see this endangered only in Florida wildflower? So instead of just dicking around here with how many feet here and there and whatever it is you're planning to do, why not first identify the treasures we have? You all talk about property rights. I think God probably has a few property rights here too. And I think the land that you're talking about mowing fits into that definition. Let's look at the wildflowers, identify the wildflowers that could benefit this county, and then go mow like crazy. But don't destroy this single wildflower that is indigenous to our county and Franklin County. We benefit far more from it than if we lost it. That's it.
It's a great point. I think if we educate people, though, they'll end up on people's dining room table and instead of out there growing naturally, possibly. Miss Beatrice Consuegra.
I thank you, good evening. I thank you for your attention, and I really appreciate your vote for Commissioner Hess's letter. I just wanted to say that I live in Wakulla County because of its natural beauty, and flowers are part of it. I am a flower child of the 70s, so I'm very proud to say that. And we need to keep doing whatever it is we can do as a community and the commissioners who have the voting power to keep Wakulla County beautiful.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Ms. Claudia Farron. Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Jeannie Broadhead.
I defer as long as it's just the safety strip they're mowing in front of my part of 98.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Gail Fishman.
Oh, yeah, I'll stay.
You should know by now I always have an opinion. Even if I don't live in Wakulla County, I'm a ranger at St. Mark's National Wildlife Refuge, so I do have a vested interest in what goes on here. Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Because I'm short, you know. I wanted to tell you about a study that Dr. Jarrett Daniels from the University of Florida did a few years ago. Don't turn off because I said that word. I have no allegiance to that school. But he conducted a study on butterfly mortality on roads. And what he found was that there is less mortality on a road that has abundant wildflowers on both sides, because then the butterflies do not have to go from one side or the other to find enough food. They can stay on the same roadside. You may prefer a smooth grassy road, but I will tell you that it's a dead zone for wildlife. Your yard is the same way. So I would say have more flowers, less grass. The bees that we send to California to pollinate the almond crop, when they come back to Florida, they're feeling not good because they've been having no diversity or very little diversity in their diet. Think how you would feel if for a month you ate nothing but pizza every day. You would feel icky after about a week. So I urge you, and you have already done this, you have left a legacy for the future of the natural beauty of Wakulla County. Because when a roadside goes to nothing but green grass, it's no longer scenic. Therefore, it belies the name Scenic Byway. And the Scenic Byway, the bike trail, is what is going to attract people to Wakulla County for the scenic and the natural beauty. So thank you for doing what you've done tonight. Keep it up.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Carol McKay.
My name is Carol McKay. I live in Leon County, right across the line. I support Wakulla County, as you see from my Soft Choppy worm grunting shirt. I worked here for 8 years as well. But I have a very unique perspective. For one thing, I live on the bike trail, and I see a lot of families going up and down the bike trail, which hopefully they will start going down Highway 98 as well. But they always stop and look at the wildflowers and take their children and show them the wildflowers. So this is a huge, huge benefit for Wakulla County for the tourism, as well as a great deal of my money comes down here into Wakulla County as I eat at the local restaurants and shop at the local stores. I run into many people down at the St. Mark's Wildlife Refuge who come down here just to see the birds and nature, and they spend a lot of money here. So I appreciate that you guys are working towards this, and I think it's awesome that you guys can do something that not a lot of politicians can do, and that's compromise. So I appreciate the effort. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Bonnie Basham.
Very briefly, Bonnie Basham, the president of the Sarracenia chapter of the Florida Native Plant Society, and on behalf of our members who are here and all the rest of them who wrote you the last week or so, thank you so much. We really, really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. David Damon.
David Damon, Crawfordville.
I'm glad to see this compromise too. Thank you. That being said, there's a related issue that I think we need to address that's gone on for some time, and that's the spraying of herbicides in the ditches that also affects these wildflowers, because it seems to be something that's on a regular plan. The truck goes by and sprays all these chemicals, and then you go by a couple weeks later and everything is just dead, brown, dead zone. A lot of those areas wash right down into the bay. And I don't know who's paying attention to this or what the plan is, but I think that's something we need to look into. Along with the ditch digging, with the machine that goes in there, and you see it down Surf Road, and he goes in there and he digs all that out, and all of a sudden it just becomes this mud hole going the length of Surf Road full of trash. All the filtering system has been taken away. Plus, we're spending all that money doing it. There's got to be a better way. I'm not the expert on this, but since we're talking about the ditches and the swales and all this, I think this is something we need to look into also. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The last word, Mr. Jack Rudlow.
Save the best for last.
The last word,
You'll forgive me on one thing. I usually come up here well armed with my facts, and I don't like to spout ignorance. But let me begin by saying how incredibly fortunate you are to have Chuck Hess on your board. And during the disastrous wetland hearings that we had again and again, I would sit there and listen to the presentation that Chuck would give. And I was absolutely astounded because I research, study, work with saltwater wetlands. And the information he has on freshwater and how that worked was just incredible and accurate. And I learned whole lots of points that I use in our lectures at Gulf Specimen Aquarium with school groups. Wildflowers, it's a no-brainer. This is one of the things that are the main attraction. The biodiversity you've been hearing about in this particular spot is absolutely true. This is a kind of a God-blessed county that has not only diversity in its flowers and its plants in the uplands and its swamps and its marshes and its clear springs, but also the marine environment. What David Damon was talking about is the poisons being sprayed on stuff, working its way out, slaughtering phytoplankton out there, and having adverse effects on the bay and the ecosystem out there is very real and very true. But I want to get to the plants and the flowers and all that stuff. It just lifts your spirit. It just makes life just better. Just to drive down a road, grass versus bright white little flowers, red flowers, green flowers, all that sort of thing, catches your attention. It helps with your tourism. It is a tourist attraction. When I was a kid growing up in New York, in Brooklyn, I was reading the books of knowledge, and I remember reading about insectivorous bug-eating plants, and they were just a fascinating thing in the world. I had no idea that I would end up here in a place where I can walk out and see pitcher plants. I've been out with Chuck and seen Venus flytraps out in bogs, sundews, butterworts, bladderworts. All of these things are these incredible insect-eating plants that are there that are just intriguing. People just love those things. It was what Dana was saying about this should be a tourist attraction. We're looking at trying to how to bring people down here. Well, this is something we've really got to sell. Now, you know, there may be safety issues. I'm not sure what they are, but certainly that needs to be compromised. One thing, since I say I have not done my homework, but is this going to include Masha's Sands and the road down there, because you have these fantastic beach flowers. What am I told? They're Gardiellas. I'm not sure if I've got it right, but these are something that are just lows in this unique environment. And I remember calling the county one time, and I saw the mowing machine. The flowers were just blooming, and here comes the mowing machine whacking these things all down. I would hope you would protect that stuff as well. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, we need to clarify. Jessica's got a question.
I just wanted to make sure, are you referring to the fourth bullet on your revised letter?
Highway 98 east from Spring.
Yeah, but you need to, with the compromise, what exactly was that compromise? Because we're going to have to amend the letter.
From
Wakulla High School to the Wakulla River.
It's not on here. It's from Wakulla High School to the, not the Ocotney River, to
The Wakulla River.
Wakulla
River.
Yeah.
And you'd have to restate it to say that.
The front slope.
The front slope.
In the old letter we sent, bullet point number 4 says Highway 98 from Newport east to the county line only cut the front slope. Mike, that's what you're talking about, right? So we could just change that, this bullet point to say from Wakulla High School or from 319 east to the Wakulla River. Only cut the front slope.
That's what we agreed on.
Regardless of if it's 15 or
Maybe
or
20
20
feet.
or...
Yeah.
319,
Maybe
it's
2015,
319 heading east to the Wakulla River.
Right.
Okay.
It goes in front of the middle school.
Lower Bend Middle School from the golf course.
319 or 98?
98 from 319
From
Okay.
319
Got
to
it.
the Wakulla River.
Make sure you're good. Good?
I'm good.
Okay. Jessica's good, you're good to go.
I'm happy.
Any further
You
discussion?
happy?
Yep.
All right.
Everybody's happy.
Good thing. Discussion?
No, sir.
Hear none? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Congratulations.
One thing I would like to say, I just agree, you're talking about this being just a spot in Wakulla County. I just committed 500 acres to an annual burn in 98, on 98 Highway. So there's another 500 acres that's going to be burned annually for your flowers.
All right, that ends our commissioner agenda items. County Attorney.
Just one item, Mr. Chairman, an update on the Lake Ellen boat ramp permit. You'll recall that the permit exception was granted late last year. We did get several citizens who challenged the DEP's verification of our exemption. I think I reported last time that DEP kicked all of them out with leave to amend. We now have one petition that was filed under that leave to amend guidance. So at this point, we're waiting to hear whether DEP will find that legal sufficient in order to send it to a hearing officer. If so, we'll come back to you and let you know and get some further direction.
But the question is whether or not we qualify for the exemption?
That's correct. Because, yeah, it's a challenge to DEP's verification of our exemption.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Anything further?
Nothing further.
County Administrator.
Not this time.
Citizens to be heard, number 2. Mr. David Damon.
David Damon, Crawfordville. At the last meeting, I was kind of confused. Commissioner Moore brought up this whole plan about worrying about hurricane evacuation on the old, in front of the high school, the old section that heads south of 319 that was left in place. There was a lot of talk. It went back and forth. Everybody was a little confused. But in the end, if it's about hurricane evacuation, why did we close the southbound lane? Why is that the plan? Nobody evacuates a hurricane heading south. I could understand coming from Panacea and people getting confused about turning off and taking the cutoff there in front of Kangaroo. But real quickly it was slipped in there, well, we need to close off the southbound lane. That has nothing to do with hurricane evacuation. Clearly what that has to do with is redirecting traffic in front of Rockies. I would strongly suggest that you reconsider this. And one of the reasons is you have just taken the property values away from the people that live on that little cutoff section. Their potential for commercial real estate just disappeared, vanished, because you guys want to take away that road frontage. If I was that group of half dozen property owners right there, I would hire an attorney and I would sue the county because their property's worth nothing now. They lived there all those years probably thinking about, this will be our retirement, we're going to sell it for commercial. You're also destroying a lot of the value of the Kangaroo there because you have taken traffic away that used to cut in there. They've been there a long time. That and the sign plan to increase billboard size signs on all these commercial properties is just makes no sense. Neither one of those plans do. But why in the world we're cutting off that southbound traffic headed to the beach when they can detour and go that way. If it's a matter of safety, straighten out that turn. Make it a Y. Don't make it a 90 degree if that's the real issue here. But hurricane evacuation is not the issue on that southbound lane. On the northbound, yes, but everybody went right along with it except for Commissioner Hess, and I don't understand that. What was the thought process if that's what this was really about? Fix the road if that's a problem, but don't say it's about hurricane evacuation and then take the southbound lane, because nobody's going to leave Tallahassee with a hurricane coming and headed to the coast. Nobody's going to leave Crawfordville and go down to St. Teresa to get away from a hurricane. That makes no sense. That gets a lot of use. If you go up there on the weekend and look, there is a lot of beach traffic taking that cutoff road. It doesn't make sense to close that off. We paid for it. It ought to be there, and it ought to separate the traffic so not so much traffic goes in front of the high school. This just doesn't make any sense. Why y'all did that, I don't get it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That ends our citizens to be heard. Discussion item from commissioners. Commissioner Stewart? I've got
Gary,
just...
you don't have any?
I've got a couple. You may have seen, we got an email today from the Florida Association of Counties. There was another preemption attempt to preempt local regulations for items that are taxable. And so, like the, plastic bags could fall, those categories. Anything that could be taxable, they were trying to preempt so the county would not have the ability to ban it. I think it could apply to, alcohol near schools and churches, could apply to bans on septic tanks in certain areas. Many things are on the list. That was killed today. That was killed out of the tax bill. And so we got another victory in the preemption world. The next thing, previous meeting, we spoke about putting signs up recognizing Nigel Bradham, and I know the road department is working on that already, and they put some temporary signs up. But I talked to Jessica about bringing it up to the board and find out exactly what we want to do. If there's something that we could go beyond just doing the signs, to do like a ceremonial keys to the county or something. We need to have some sort of reveal and to recognize him, and it's not just put the signs out there. I've spoken to his foundation, and he definitely would love to come participate in that. So we just need to kind of give staff direction on how to move forward with that idea.
I think it's a good idea to do the keys to the county. I talked to some of the folks that were supporting the Black History Month parade, and that was one of the things I brought up was, it'd be nice if we can do but it was too short. Then we talked to Jessica about it. In fact, we talked about getting a key to present him a key to the county, just symbolic. But
right.
No, I'd love for us to be able to have him at a meeting, or recognize him on TV, or have something in the park. I don't know.
He won the Super Bowl. He don't want to come to one of these meetings.
Well, he may not, but then he may.
Hometown.
However we can
recognition.
recognize him, I'd love to do it.
I think it'd be good to do it outside of here, because we'll probably have a crowd. Probably wouldn't be able to hold anyone, and if we could do a small event in the park.
What if we did something like a proclamation and made it a day for him, or
yeah, absolutely.
You can also do that and just instead of putting a sign up on 319 or wherever, just have that as unveiled as a sign along with the proclamation.
Present it that day.
Present it that day.
the proclamation.
That's right.
Yeah, let's do that. I'd be glad to attend something like that with you.
What if we presented him with the current banner that we have up there on 319?
And reveal the
reveal the
permanent
sign.
sign as well.
Mhm.
Proclamation.
Absolutely. And the proclamation, keys to the county, and
Yeah.
whole 9 yards.
Jessica's got it.
Very good.
That'd be good.
Very good. Thank you. That's all I have, Chuck.
David had a good idea about doing it at graduation, I think is what you were saying, David.
They want to probably strike while the iron's hot, though.
I think he's got the whole year. He's going to be a Super Bowl champion, so there's not a
I think
lot
we'll
to
have to see when we can get him here.
Yeah, we got to see when we get.
Yeah, we're working around his schedule.
Yep.
You know.
I'd like to give some kudos to the politically engaged students who from Wakulla who attended the Never Again rally in the Capitol. And the Wakulla High National Honor Society is in need of funds for a scholarship, field trip funds, and graduation cords. So, I'd like you to please consider joining me in writing a check to help our National Honor Society scholars. And congratulations to Samantha Petrosky from River Springs Middle School, 8th grader, who was the National Academic Quiz Tournament Player of the Week in February 3rd. In the River Springs Middle School team captain. Academic coaches are Bill Taylor and Trey Thaxton, and they plan to compete in the national tournament in Chicago in May. So that's pretty special.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We stand adjourned. Thank you all for coming out tonight.
Oh. Got a political victory by adding one road. Good job.
Nobody picked up, did you actually increase the mowing on a couple of them?